So my name is Katarina Lundgren, and I am the director of Mimir Center, and I'm going to share a little bit about how we work with trauma-sensitive equine-assisted mindfulness. And here with me, I have Marta Sikorska, who is a board member of Mimir and owner of her own place in Poland, and also Debbie Riley, who is my co-facilitator in UK, and also have her own business, and they can talk more about themselves, and feel free to ask both me and them questions. And as I said, if you could keep yourself muted when you're not speaking, that would be great. As it's so easy that the sound starts making funny things. I am recording this, and I will share it in the trauma sensitive equine assisted mindfulness group, potentially in our Teachable. Some of you are already are going to attend a workshop, and also we share it on the Mimir page and nowhere else. But so you're aware of that. If you say something or so, you will be on the video, of course. There are still people coming. Yeah. So I'm going to start with a short presentation, show you some pictures, and then Marta is also going to share a little presentation. I will focus on the actual trauma-sensitive equine-assisted mindfulness, and Marta will speak more to why we think the equine welfare aspect is so important in our work. And please interrupt. You can ask questions, unmute yourself and ask questions, or write in the chat, and the three of us will try to moderate and pay attention to all of you. And if you don't want to speak up in here, you can always email me or any one of us afterwards if you have questions. So I'm just going to go for it and see if I can find my presentation. And I think you see it in slideshow mode now. Is it correct, Marta? Yeah. And there will also be, when we have shared our presentation, there will be time for questions and reflections or whatever you want to share with us. So as I said, we come from Mimir Center. We all either board members or work in Mimir or are close collaborators. And this trauma-sensitive equine-assisted mindfulness is a program that I developed some 3 years ago. And I'm going to share a little bit about it. So if you just remove the trauma-sensitive and talk about what equine-assisted mindfulness is. So it's a combination of mindfulness and of experiential learning with horses. And the way we do it in Mimir is we try to be as much as we can in more natural settings. So they would also be nature-assisted, nature-based and nature-assisted. And for several different reasons, nature is beneficial to people, but it's also beneficial to the horses. So from our point of view, it helps with the equine welfare part also. And we don't take that component lightly, and Marta will speak more to that later. I just mention in here because it's easy to think that the equine welfare part is only about the equines, like maintaining their welfare, but it actually has an impact on the outcome of your intervention. So I would say that the better welfare you can provide your horses with, the bigger potential you will have for having good outcomes of your equine-assisted interventions. So why did we then make our equine-assisted mindfulness trauma-sensitive? We did that because trauma is prevalent in society, and if you offer any kind of equine-assisted interventions, trauma will walk into your pasture or into your stable or wherever you are when doing this. And potentially the one coming would not know that they carry trauma. So from our perspective, it's important that you can recognize signs of trauma and that you can ask some questions around it, but also know when it shows up and the person is still unaware of it, how you can be supportive. So this way of working with trauma-sensitive mindfulness is not trauma-focused. We don't do trauma confrontations. We don't do psychotherapy with the people coming. We keep ourselves to what mindfulness is. So we keep ourselves into this scope, meaning that we are trained in being trauma-sensitive and trauma-aware and trauma-informed, and that we can recognize these kind of signs. But we also know what kind of interventions and activities would be supportive to people with trauma. So it means that either we can have a target group of saying this is for trauma, this is for traumatized people, like we have this workshop for traumatized people, or we would know what to do when trauma arrives. And even I'm not going to go into explaining what trauma is in that sense. It's very individual to each individual, of course. And also, if somebody have had, you can call it a smaller trauma, or they have a huge trauma. Let's say they had a new diagnosis, that they've been told that they have cancer or something, and they come for that reason. And often, if there is trauma in the history of the person and they're not really aware of it, often the rest of it is triggered. So it might not be what you think it is, or what the person arriving think it is about. This is not uncommon at all. So many reasons to why we do this trauma sensitive. And in my opinion, anyone who works with humans in any capacity, teachers, social workers, of course, psychologists, psychotherapists in any kind of physical healthcare, should, I don't often say should, but should actually be trauma informed. So what does it mean, being trauma informed? This is just a short list, and there is more to it, and you can also extrapolate even like fewer points or bullet points, of course, but this is giving you an idea at least. So it's about giving options and choices. It's about letting people have their own pace and rhythm and their own ways. It's about giving space. It's about having consent for what you do with someone, for example, if you are touching. It's about inviting people to more pay attention to the external world first, if you do mindfulness, and not their internal world, which means holding back on breathing exercises, for example, or body scans, which are often very common in different mindfulness practices. It's about you as a practitioner being present and grounded, about being accepting, non-judgmental and open, and about being authentic, as transparent as you can be, clear and honest, and to not pathologize. And this last one is super important. Be aware of your own triggers and typical reactions when trauma occurs. So what is mindfulness? And here we use, I don't know if you are into mindfulness or are having taken trainings in mindfulness before, but John Kabat-Zinn is a big person in the mindfulness field. So he was the one who actually introduced it into physical and mental health care from the beginning, from more of the Eastern Buddhist traditions, and kind of westernized it. And his definition of what mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So it's about becoming more aware, more self-aware. And what happens when we are stressed or traumatized is that there are defense mechanisms kicking in to make sure that we are not that aware, not that present, because stress and trauma keeps bugging us, or how to express it, but being present in our lives. We don't really want that, because then we have to deal with the stress and trauma. And that's funny about stress and trauma, and specifically trauma, that we try to avoid it as much as possible, but there is also the contradiction of you feeling attracted to it. So it's this push and pull. So what you do to protect yourself from it is to disconnect, which is, again, then you can't be that mindful and that aware anymore. So the interesting thing here is that with the disconnect, you will benefit greatly from practicing mindfulness, but it's super hard because practicing the mindfulness will make you more present and aware, and this will trigger your trauma. So it's kind of in each other's, in one end of the stick, the mindfulness and the dissociation or the disconnect over here. Mindfulness in itself is dual, and one of the most common misconceptions about mindfulness is that it's a lot about the being with. So when I see trauma sensitive or even just equine assisted mindfulness being advertised, it's often about this: come and hang with horses, come and have this magical connection, come and be and relax with the horses, and come and just sit with them and breathe with them, and all this, as I mentioned, is hard for people with trauma. Mindfulness is also, it is about the being with, and it's kind of what we are working towards, being able to be more, just be present in our lives, and also with horses, of course, or with nature, or with family and friends, with ourselves. But to balance it up, mindfulness is also about working with. So the working with part is actually what helps you. You work with yourself to be more grounded, to be more present, and all of this, so you can be with more. And in this workshop, we do focus quite a lot on the working with part. And in how we work, we have kind of married mindfulness with experiential learning. And you see here, this is a picture I did just to try to visualize this and how it's connected. So there is a duality to experiential learning as well. There is the doing part, and then there is the reflecting part. And in mindfulness, we have the being with and the working with. So it's about moving through this rhythm of doing, being, doing, both in mindfulness and in experiential learning. And just to put a name on it, the practice of action with reflection would be the experiential learning part. You can shorten it to praxis. And when people ask about the benefits of working with horses and mindfulness and combining it with trauma, I often point out that how it combines working with both your mind and your body in different ways. And for your body, it's about the movement and the rhythm. And if we don't, in our everyday lives, we don't think so much about how biology and psychology is connected. But there is, when we are small, we all learn from, we do and we move and we use our body before we become verbal and abstract about things. And these are just some ways of how you can work with. You can focus on movement itself, rhythm, direction, speed, patterns in movement, duration of movement, synchrony, with that you can synchronize with another being, and regulation, co-regulation, and entrainment. And all the last ones are more of the relational aspect of movement. It comes in naturally. If you work outside in nature and you work with horses, the movement part comes in much more natural than you have an indoor session of mindfulness when people are either sitting or being on the floor or sitting on chairs, for example. So the model that we use in trauma-sensitive mindfulness is based on David Treleaven's model for trauma-sensitive mindfulness. And we have expanded on it and explored it a little bit more. So some of the first steps comes from his work, and then there are other people that has influenced and inspired us, and we have added our own touch to it. So these are the steps. And from the beginning, it was set up as a 10-week program. So you would go, and ideally, this is, I think, what I would recommend. By coming to different places, I can't go to different countries and be there for 10 weeks. So the benefit of doing it during 10 weeks is that you get the space in between to work with it, to process it, to reflect, to practice it. So nowadays we do this as a workshop, and it's quite intense because then we go through all of these different steps. So we start often the evening before with an introduction and contextualization of what we do. And we talk a little bit about what mindfulness is and a little bit about what trauma is. And then we work with mindfulness or mindful gauges and mindful attention. And these are kind of the practice of listening to yourself and paying attention to yourself and your environment. The next step we work with is safety, and then resilience, inner awareness, self-awareness, self-compassion, belonging, presence. And you see that presence comes in as number 8, which is often like the go-to in the beginning of most mindfulness practices. And then we work with mindful attunement, attachment, and then we do integration and bridging. And all of this, I prefer really to show it in a circle because it's not like very linear work. It is about going, when we practice, we do introduce it in this sequence. But then it becomes listening to yourself. What is it that I need right now? And you will bounce back and forth between these ones. And then why do we have horses present? And for me, it's about bringing in the relational aspect of the work. And that's not only the relationship with the horse, it's relationship to other beings, also humans, of course, others in general, also to self and to your body and your mind and your soul, your relationship to time, for example, or the rest of the environment. And horses, they are another species. They don't function exactly as we do. And one thing that they don't have is this constant verbal thinking and processing that we do as humans, which kind of casually saying that they are always in the here and now, or they are being present in the moment of what appears right there and right now. It's not that black and white, and this is not like humans have struggles with this and horses are always present. But to give you an idea about how horses and their presence often also can just be quite inspiring to us. They don't get hung up on the same things that we do as humans. And all of this and some more we have put together into this program that we call Trauma-Sensitive Equine Assisted Mindfulness. And as I see it, it helps us with finding our own tailor-made kind of version of mindfulness. So even if we do it in groups, you don't do like, it's not an invitation, now everybody does a body scan, for example, or now everybody does this. You get the same invitation, but then you go out and explore what works for you. And the point is that you will learn to gauge in any situation what you need in that situation. That's individual, of course. Which then would help you support yourself and handling potentially your own feelings of powerlessness or overwhelm or stress or whatever it can be. And it helps you develop resilience and self-compassion and a better sense of belonging and a better sense of safety. And with this, you will be able to relate better to self, others, nature, or any kind of environment. And in the end, we know ourselves better, our own tolerance and intolerances, our own stress levels, and so on. And our own potentials and limitations, strengths, and weaknesses. Which means that the better we know ourselves, the better we can give ourselves what we need. And this year, we have so far scheduled 4 different trauma-sensitive equine-assisted workshops. So we have one coming up in April, and it's almost full. There are a few spots left. And then we have one in Poland, and there are more spots on that one, and that's the second time we're running it in Poland. And then we are running it for the first time in France. And this is going to be an extended one for 5 days. So it's in July during, hopefully, summer vacation for some people, at least. And so it's running for 5 days. It's actually half-paced, half. It's extended and slower. So you would do it in the morning time, and then there would be opportunity for you to do other things in the afternoon. And there is plenty of things you can do in this place that we're going to have fun. And we have a week, a shorter one again in UK in July. And potentially there will be others. And if you're, as I just repeating what I said before, if you're interested in this, you can reach out and contact me. And you can check our webpage. So this is what I have for now, and I will stop sharing my screen. And if you have any comments or questions now before Marta speaks more to the equine welfare part, please feel free to ask or comment.
So I just say that you're also welcome to just pop something in the chat if you don't feel comfortable speaking out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Maybe it was super clear, or
It was.
yeah. We'll come back to you then, and I let you, Marta.
Okay, I will try to share my screen then. Okay. Is it visible? It is, I think. Okay, so I'll try to make it full screen. So my name is Marta Sikorska, and Pasikonie, which is here on the screen, is the name of the village I live in Poland, and also a name of my business. It's an NGO. I see a list of participants on my screen, and I don't want to see it. Maybe okay, no, I don't. So what I will show you will be just few like frames from where we work, from where I work with horses, and where the last trauma sensitive equine mindfulness workshop took place. And I'm not showing this as a kind of, a perfect place to hold this workshop, or an environment which is like flawless. But hopefully what you will see will be maybe different from what we usually see as a surrounding for horses. And I also don't want you to see this as a critique of different kind of places or different kinds of surroundings, because I believe that we all try to provide, well, to do our best as far as equine welfare is concerned. But maybe you're gonna get inspired as far as the environment is concerned, and as far as the way you organize the space for your horses and yourself. Maybe this is gonna be kind of, inspiratory for you. And okay, so let's go. So this was last year, actually, but it's funny because when I looked at this presentation today, it looked a different species in my house. I will close the door. So today it looked almost the same, and the way the horses feel and the way they can be can make choices, the way they can be autonomous, the way they can be a part of where they live. It matters in our trauma-sensitive work, because actually their welfare, their quality of life equals the quality of the service or the quality of the intervention we are trying to provide. So maybe it's difficult to see it, because we usually cultures, horse human cultures, we look for ways to have the horse environment kind of comfortable for us. We look for ways that it's gonna be easy for us to catch the horse, or it's gonna be like comfortable, not to get too muddy, maybe not to get too, I don't know, dirty. So we look for different arenas, and then I don't know, like this kind of more equestrian sort of environments. And these environments very often are divided into smaller parcels of land. The horses are sometimes like they are not together, but they are bunched up into smaller groups, which will reflect again the human comfort. So what we are looking for in the equine welfare is possibilities to give horses as much of their own agenda as possible, as much of their like impact and as much of choice as it's possible for us. It's also connected to kind of to our imagination, because sometimes we just don't. It's difficult to just to assess what would be the horse's choice or their agenda, but once you start playing with the environment, you will see yeah, how it unfolds in front of your eyes, actually. So this is early spring, and again, in my place, all the horses they live together. I don't have like them divided into like groups of age or of gender, the different divisions in different places, but here there are old horses, younger horses, smaller horses, all of them just getting on with each other. So they have a shelter. It's open all the time, and they can use it when they want to like get kind of respite from flies, and that's the most kind of the season when the shelter is the most popular, because now the rainy days, the snowy days, it's always empty. But once the flies arrive, it's crowded. Okay. So, and the interventions, the workshops, they all happen at the same place where the horses live. I don't separate, I don't have a kind of space which is designed or designated for the workshops to take place. I don't treat it, I don't create the environment in which horses go to work. In this environment, the humans kind of, we are guests at their place, and we try to find a way to be this kind of guest that you want to invite again and again, not the ones that you are waiting to leave. So there is also a kind of small forest in the area where I keep the horses, and I don't clean the forest, so this is this part of the land that I want to be the kind of wildish.
I can't hear you, Marta.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, because somebody connected to the Bluetooth and So, like coming back to this giving of agenda and choices. So this wildish little forest in my area, it's a kind of experiment on this again. So the horses can choose what they will do with the old trees. They will choose how to use the space, and I also try to experiment. Like I'm bringing hay sometimes there, or I'm bringing hammocks there, and I'm observing how they use the old plants, for example, the old trunks of trees, because they dig under them and they find some, I don't know what they actually find, but it's a very lively place, and it's a, yes, I think it adds very much to the nature assisted part of the workshops, the nature's rules there. And okay, so that's a picture from the shelter, and one of my horses just relaxing and resting. And the accessories we use for the workshops, they are not a part of their daily lives. I don't keep them just on the pastures and paddocks. I bring them every time, and I think that's my observation, that it stays in. I mean, there is this constant kind of joy and curiosity when they see them. They are always very interested. They want to touch everything. They want to smell it, and they kind of engage with the toys. I don't also prepare and I don't do some training for the horses to be around these objects, as we don't use them as training tools. So there's no need to for the kind of adaptation process. Usually they are soft, big things that are not possibly harmful or dangerous in any way to horses. So they are able to explore in their own pace, and again, to make choices, to have their own agenda around these things. And okay, so this is some more of the forest and the winter environment. And okay, also sometimes my clients ask me about the food being present. I mean, food like the hay. As I said, this is not, I don't see it as a work for them. So and we humans, we tend to see when we work, we don't eat, we don't have pleasure, we don't have entertainment. The work is work, and we need to be strict about it. So I leave the horses as much choices as possible, even when there are clients around. So they can regulate their presence, they can regulate their engagement. And like being around hay is, very much of a regulatory activity for horses. So the hay is always there. I don't, but sometimes actually, I even supervised with Katerina recently. I was working on a piece of my land when there was no hay present, and it was interesting. It just, I didn't have enough power to change the place of hay. So, but the place is designed in a way that there's always some kind of greenery or some plants, or it's not a bare, sand arena. So they always have some possibility to chew on something, to find something, if they want to regulate, if they want to graze and browse for something edible. Okay, again, so this is the herd. They, as you see, they are kind of live life a lot, and that's it. That's how the place of my horses looks like. Thank you for visiting.
And I don't know if you pick up on and Marta talks about this, is how we see when we work with people who come and don't see themselves as competent or complete or enough or empowered or all this. So what we try to do is keep the horses so they can be that, which would then reflect, because people coming to us, working with us, will always look at what we do and what we say and how we treat our horses, and what we say about them is super important, because it will matter in the trust of clients towards you. So this is just one aspect of how the welfare of the horse and how we think about the setup and their environment impacts the outcome of your interventions.
It becomes kind of an element of social learning, I would say.
Yeah.
That
because this is what we want for clients, so to feel empowered and competent and complete and all this. It's a lot about role modeling and treating beings as they are, like trusting their own inner abilities to problem solve and take care of themselves, find their food, cater for their needs.
And even if we don't teach it directly, it would be the background, the environment, the kind of the setting that, and people will pick up on this. People will notice that, and they will, even if it's not conscious, even in the first moment, after the whole day, this is what they will remember, how they felt in this environment, how the environment itself operated.
And sometimes we do go to other places where we don't control the environment, and we even have not met the horses before, but we still then act in a way like that we actually see the horses as complete and full beings, able of a lot of things. Do you want to add something, Debbie?
I thought that was interesting that you just said about not necessarily seeing the places beforehand, and how lucky we were with the Dartmoor venue. In fact, I've just put together, there's a couple of little photos that I can share if people are interested in that, but I know you've already looked at quite a lot of different presentations, but yes, I think that kind of implicit sort of creating safety, and allowing people and allowing the horses to very much be themselves and to be the directors of the situation is really important in terms of, you know, modeling, like you say, that agency and that ability to find their own resources ultimately. Yeah. And also what you were just saying about how important the environment is and how that leaves you feeling. I mean, that was something that was huge for me when I first experienced it myself, coming along to the trauma sensitive equine assisted mindfulness one at Ash Rescue Centre, and just the whole process of it was just really nurturing and incredibly empowering, and certainly for me was a real sort of step, that led to a different direction in my life. So yeah. And
we did get a small research grant to look at different aspects of our program, and the environment was one of them. So we have actually offered them in quite different environments, from in the sand paddock, at riding school, at almost out like in open space and nature. And you were at one of them, Marta, in Sweden, when we were at very natural settings, like almost like your place. And we find that it matters. The environment matters a lot. And directly for the horses, of course, but indirectly also directly for the people, but indirectly for the people as well.
And can be really, I mean, really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people, because certainly here in the UK, you know, we're so used to seeing horses in stables and in such restricted environments, very small paddocks, etc. And certainly this time of year in a lot of mud and all that. it becomes the norm. And of course, you know, we do all have those challenges, and but you know, being really open to that, and certainly trying to find places that do it in a slightly different way, in a more natural way, is really important, because I think it also opens people's eyes to it can be different, it can be done differently. So yeah.
And I think if anybody is interested in learning more and being facilitating this, one aspect is in the beginning it feels like a loss of control, like you have this great space, and there is a lot of safety aspects coming up, for example. People often ask about that. So it's a process, and we are not saying that the way we do it is the only way. And as I said, I've offered it in riding arenas, and so it works too. It's just not as good from my point of view. Do you want to add something, Marta?
Yes, because another aspect is that when you enter the more typically horse-like environment, I mean the equestrian riding environment,
like a stable or
like a stable, yes, people always have to have this feeling that they should be like, they should maybe be more they should be dressed in a special way. They should recognize all these different equipments that are there. They should know the jargon, that the language used, you know, just to call certain things in a special horsey way. And it creates kind of tension, and it's very well known from other, you know, areas of the world that we should be this or that, or that we should live up to some kind of standard, that we should fit in to some, when we go somewhere, we should look like the most professional as, you know, as possible. And I remember like clients coming to workshops where they are told we are not going to ride horses. There is not, you know, even like a tint of riding in the offer, and they come dressed in the most riding clothes they could find, or they bring helmets with them, or special shoes that were like riding shoes. And it's not, I think it's a lot of effort and a lot of dressing up. It's like putting like special protective layers on you. Yes, again, like creating a kind of protection against being present, against being with yourself. So this more natural environment gives a lot of clients more ease, and they kind of feel like, oh, okay, it's just nature, just trees. I don't have to just understand all this special, you know, horsey things. And it seems like, you know, just I can be more maybe human too around here. So that's why I love to work in such non-horsey places, or even they're actually a lot like very horsey, but not typical for horse culture.
Yeah. So we can talk about our work for hours.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Yeah, so regarding the mindfulness you do, you said how important is the nature, but do you ever go out? So are you staying always inside your stables, or you use the nature? So you go out to the woods, to the fields. So how you use that?
Yes, and often, as we have been speaking about, the horses live in this kind of natural environments. So we go out to them. But you can also, of course, alter a horse and go for a walk in the woods. And I have done that in different settings when I have work with one-on-one or two people coming. I don't typically do it with a group of 12 to 16 people. So depending on what you work with and what access you have to also reaching a woods or meadows or something. So of course you can use nature in many different ways.
And in this workshop you're gonna hold for us, are we going to learn techniques like that for mindfulness, being inside the stables and going out to the woods? Or What can we
Well,
expect?
the workshop you can expect to go through the program yourself. So you will do all the steps. And I think if you want to do mindfulness with people later on as a facilitator or therapist, I think it's crucial that you actually try the program yourself first. So you understand what it is. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to go through the program. We are not going to go out for walks with the horses here because too many people.
We're going to experience the whole thing, and then we can use that in our work.
Yes. Yes. And of course, and we have follow-up trainings to the workshop that you can take, but that's not, you do what you want with it. It's like, so the invitation is to try it out for yourself first.
Okay, thank you.
And I haven't been to the place we're going to be in Hungary. So we will see what it will become.
Okay.
And
we are very curious.
very curious, yeah.
Is this the three of you who are coming to see us?
Debbie is not going to come to Hungary with us, so it's Marta and me this time.
Okay.
We always work in a team, so we're always at least 2 people. Thank you for your question. And if there is anybody else who has something. Are you here, Anna Maria?
Yes, I am here.
Hey, you can tell a little bit about the environment we're going to be in Hungary.
My net connection is not so good, so I try to understand your questions, and please repeat again, because I have a small break while you are talking to me. So can you repeat the question?
Yes, I was just wondering if you wanted to share a bit about the environment in Hungary that we're going to be in.
I have 4 horses, and we have we have a big arena, and we live far from the city, so this is a big environment. I hope this will be fine for the program and for the workshop.
Will we be able to be out in the fields or the pastures?
Yes, we can be inside and outside as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also thought about adding about nature, that, for example, we tried some certain elements of this program when we go to do the rewilding programs, Rewild Your Heart program, where we meet horses, feral horses living in nature. Then we try to introduce certain elements of nature-assisted mindfulness there. And this is like totally without any, structured, human structured environment. Just the woods, for example, and lakes, and some horses who live there as just as deer do, or just as rabbits, or I don't know, other forest animals. And it also becomes the environment then.
Yes, so there are components of nature-assisted mindfulness in what we do, and equine-assisted interventions, of course. So it's quite a mix. I'm trying to draw from all of this that we know is beneficial for humans.
I wonder, Katerina, if it would be helpful to share a couple of the pictures from the workshop at ASH, where we have got some people actually doing some of the sessions.
Yes, absolutely. And you have like 7 minutes.
Okay.
So I will need you
van internet bakas.
I muted. I think it was via.
Yeah. Can I screen share? Yes.
I think I just gave you permissions. You're a co-host now.
Just remind me where I need to go. Oh, there we are. Here we go.
Yep.
So I will just quickly whiz through some of these. But yeah, this is one of the herds. There was a number of herds actually at the place. Where we're going back to again this year, which is a rescue centre actually for retired horses, but it's also a wildlife rescue centre, about 100 acres. So it is quite an incredible place, quite an unusual place, and has also been through a process of rewilding. So we will also be working there with the rewilding project. But I will just kind of fly through really, and just some of these are pictures that I took whilst I was kind of exploring the area, and this is a different herd to the one that we've just seen. These are the old boys. These in fact are one's a ex-police horse and the other one's an ex-cavalry horse. But this was our little indoor area, which also had some nature in it, which was quite incredible. So yeah, really quite unusual venue, but they also had a beautiful area where we could wander around, which was just next to that area that you've just seen where we were indoors, where there was ponds and various places to sit and things. They run weddings actually here, so it's really quite beautiful. Some of the food, the amazing food that they gave us, another way to be mindful perhaps. This is actually Jenny, the lady that owns the place and has done the incredible work there. This is one of Jenny's things. She's into her herbs. She's a qualified herbalist, and all the paddocks in fact have lots of wildflowers and herbs, so the horses can actually self-select as well and treat themselves, but she also does a lot of natural treatments with them. I couldn't resist that picture. So I'm going to just kind of whiz through. You can see little bits of us doing reflections and doing different exercises. The horses were sometimes, so actually if I go back a moment, I was doing a little session myself, and I took this photo because the horses all came over and surrounded me for a moment, which was absolutely lovely. But you know, sometimes they're off in the background, and they can choose, as Katerina was saying, is really important, whether they interact or not with us during the sessions. Bring their own little bit of magic to it, bringing that presence as well. That's actually me again with the horse that came up, so I didn't take that picture. I think Katerina might have done. So yeah, various different exercises that we're doing, and we used all sorts of different resources. So I think here we might have been exploring the window of tolerance, and using different things other than the horses again, and they just come and choose to interact or not. Lovely picture, that one. Excuse me. Those are big smiles. I think we were looking at belonging actually during this session, and yeah, the picture speaks for itself, hopefully. What else have we got? I think actually this is towards the end of the final day, when we're exploring a little bit more in terms of relational and movement, etc. And it was really interesting that different people or different horses were attracted to different people, I have to say, rather than the other way around. And also I think in the final stages, when we're talking about bridging and taking this into the world as such, or back home with us, you know, these again are little kind of representations of different things that people put together to help them to memorize and take home the learning, really, whether that's taking notes or actual creating physical things. And of course, the movement side of it, the synchronicity, I've got to go back to that picture. There was another lovely picture where this lady started to have a dance, and the horses were completely attracted to that. And so that was another wonderful moment. I think we're about there, but yeah. So hopefully that gives you all a little bit more of an idea of different elements that that it can be nature assisted. It also is very very personal. You know, there's me in the background. That was the position I was in when the horses came up around me. So you can get a perspective there as to what was going on. Okay, I hope that helps. I will wrap it up there. Thank
you, Debbie. Thank you. And I don't know if anybody's here who plans to attend in the UK. You are equally, of course, welcome to whatever place you come to. Any last questions or remarks, or something you want to share, or something that is unclear to you before we wrap up? If something shows up later on, reach out to us and we will do our best to answer you.
Yeah, I really welcome people from Poland to check the offer of the trauma-sensitive equine-assisted mindfulness in Poland, because we have like early bird price until March 22nd, I guess.
Yeah.
And I really hope we will like gather a group and have this experience again in Poland.
I hope so too.
Yeah, and see you all in not all of you, but I'm really happy to see some of you in Hungary soon.
Yeah. So thank you for being here, and please take care, and we hope to see you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
kind of induction.
See you.
Looking forward to see you.
Bye-bye.
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 Everyone.